How does this sound familiar? Especially in San Francisco, not in my backyard. Grapes of Wrath. The eyes of the hungry. In the decade of the 1930s, between 300,000 and 500,000 Dust Bowl migrants arrived in California, where unemployment was already running high. Many Californians felt they were being invaded. Men of property were terrified for their property. Men who had never been hungry saw the eyes of the hungry. Men who had never wanted anything very much saw the flare of want in the eyes of the migrants. And the men of the towns and the soft suburban country gathered to defend themselves. They reassured themselves that they were good and intruders are bad, as a man must do before he fights. Grape of Wrath, John Steinbeck. Does that not sound familiar what's going on now? 1930s, 300,000 migrants from the Dust Bowl, which agricultural screwed up, and is still kind of screwed up. In 2025, the new year. Tell me how none of this has changed.
The
Pictures.
Grapes of Wrath was controversial when it was published in 1939.
Does this look familiar?
And the novel still rings true today. In this reading, Tom Joad and another man talk about working and living conditions in the camps.
Still rings
You
true
stay
today.
out here a little while, and if you smell any roses, you come let me smell too.
But they is work. Christ almighty, with all this stuff a-growing, orchards, grapes, vegetables. I seen it. No, they got to have men. I seen all that stuff.
You can do her. Damn good thing, you'll need to.
Well, now what about what I said? I seen all that stuff a-growing.
I'll tell you. There's a big son of a bitch of a peach orchard I worked in. Takes 9 men all the year round. Takes 3,000 men for 2 weeks when them peaches is ripe. Got to have 'em or them peaches rot. So what do? They send out handbills all over hell. They need 3,000 and they get 6,000. They get them men for what they want to pay. If you don't want to take what they pay, goddammit, there's 1,000 men waiting for your job. So you pick, and when she's done. The whole part of the country's peaches, all ripe together. When you get them picked, every goddamn one is picked. There ain't another damn thing in that part of the country to do. And then, them owners don't want you there no more. 3,000 of you. Work's done. You might steal, you might get drunk, you might just raise hell. And besides, you don't look nice, living in old tents. And it's a pretty country, but you'll stink it up. They don't want you around, so they kick you out. They move you along, that's how it is.
Tom, looking down toward the Joad tent, saw his mother, heavy and slow with weariness, build a little trash fire and put the cooking pots over the flame. The circle of children drew closer, and the calm, wide eyes of the children watched every move of Ma's hands. An old man with a bent back came like a badger out of a tent and snooped near, sniffing the air as he came. He laced his arms behind him and joined the children to watch Ma. Ruthie and Winfield stood near to Ma and eyed the strangers belligerently.
Now, them peaches gotta be picked right now, don't they? Right when they're ripe?
Of course they do.
Well, suppose them people got together and says, let 'em rot. Wouldn't be long before the price went up, by God.
You figured out something, didn't you? Come right out of your own head.
Yeah, I'm tired. Drove all night. I don't want to start no argument. So I'm so goddamn tired I might argue easy. Now don't be smart with me, I'm asking you.
Didn't mean it. You ain't been here. Now, folks figured that out, and the folks with the peach orchard figured her out too. Look, if the folks get together, there's a leader. Gotta be. Fellow that does the talking. Well, first time this fellow opens his mouth, they grab him and stick him in jail. And if there's another leader pops up, why, they stick him in jail too.
Yeah, well, a fella eats in jail anyways.
His kids don't. How'd you like to be in and your kids starving to death?
That hurts. Let's look at more pictures. Got your car, all your tarps and blankets, sleeping area right in there. Next to a little bedroom, wash tubs.
And it was slightly angled away from the book.
All the migrant workers having to bring in all their stuff.
Most audiences don't
For whatever pay, get it weighed. Let me mark it for you.
So
And this is how you arrived at camp.
the sun Tom Joad, the hero of the movie.
On foot?
Whereas the book,
With your whole family?
when I gave permission to Steppenwolf
There's
to
troopers.
do the play on Broadway that we won all of our Tonys with in 1990, I said, what is your emphasis to Frank Galati, the wonderful man who adapted it? What's your emphasis? He said,
Little Oklahoma. From 33 to 40, about 3,500 Dust Bowl migrants settled in Alisal, east of Salinas. Two local farmers subdivided their properties, offering 5 by 100 lots for $200 apiece. Many Okies, unquote, found work in the burgeoning lettuce and vegetable industry, which protected Salinas from some of the worst effects of the Depression. Deportees. The arrival of a host of Dust Bowl refugees in California led to widespread unemployment, especially in the San Joaquin and Imperial Valleys. One response was to summarily deport large number of Mexican workers who were seen as competing with U.S. citizens for jobs. Sound familiar in 2025? Fuck you Trump, fuck you Elon. Filipinos organized for action. Since the 1920s, Filipino field workers had become increasingly important to row crop growers. Filipinos in the Salinas Valley had established a barangay community association, a Filipino community church, and a newspaper, the Philippines Mail. In 1934, Filipinos workers organized one of California's first farm labor unions, the Filipino Labor Supply Association, and called a strike against growers and shippers. Racial discrimination kept workers in ethically based unions, limiting their ability to organize. The Salinas lettuce strike. In 1936, members of the Vegetables Packers Association, most of them Dust Bowl refugees from Alisal, demanded higher wages from the associated farmers. The strike turned violent, with barricaded packing sheds and fighting in the streets between strikers and so-called, quote, citizens' army, unquote.
When our folks eat the stuff they raise and live in the houses they build.
Yesterday, I was at the Cesar Chavez Museum. National Monument,
I'll be there.
where he was buried with his 2 dogs. That was the 60s. This is the 30s, Dust Bowl. Cesar Chavez was with his organizations, and again, Filipinos. Same exact story. And we picked up the Mexicans and left. And what are we doing now? Same shit.
I'm talking like Casey.
Welcome to America.